Alright, now that we got some cell background color for our column headings, our row labels, and our totals, and added some bolded fonts to signify some important values within our data, now we're going to start adding some borders to our cells to create even more separation between our data. To start off, I'm going to go ahead and add another column to the left of our report, just so that our report is not hugging the left side of our worksheet and it'll be easier to see the cell borders. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead and click column A, and on my keyboard I'm going to press Ctrl+ or Command+ if you're on Mac to add a new column. So when it comes time to apply some cell formatting, it's all based on your preference. So for this video, I'm going to do what I think looks good, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do it the exact same way I do it. If you don't like one of the borders I put on, don't do it. Play around with it and apply some borders that you think looks nice. So to start off, I'm going to apply a thick border around our whole report. So to do that, I'm going to select cells B3 to G9. I'm going to come up here to the Home tab, and within the font group, this window pane looking symbol is where we can apply borders. So by default, right now is selected for a bottom border. To change that, I'm going to select the drop down arrow, and I'm going to select thick outside border. I'm going to select a different cell so we can see our border. Now our report has a nice thick outline. Now I'm going to go in and start to apply other borders to create more separation between our data. So I think having a border between our column headings and our data would look good. So I'm going to select the column headings, go back to the font group, and this time I'm going to select the drop down, and I think a thin bottom border would look nice. Select another cell so we can see what we applied. Okay, so now our report's looking a little bit better. Another area where we can apply some separation between our values is the row labels. So I'm going to select our row labels, come up to the font group, select the drop down, and this time I'm going to apply a right border. And lastly, I think a border between the cost of each expense and the totals would look good. So I'm going to select the totals down here at the bottom, and then apply maybe a top border. Let's see what we got. And that's starting to look good. And then let's do the same thing for the totals on the right. So we're going to select our totals. And this time, instead of coming up to the font group and selecting the drop down arrow, another option we can do is give the selection a right click, go to Format Cells, go to the Border tab, and currently, if we look at this border section down here, our selection has a thick top border and a thick bottom border. But what we want to do here is add a thin left border and a thin right border to our selection. So to do that, we need to select the border style that we want, which is this thin line here at the bottom left. And then we can select the left border, and we can see that the thin line on the left showed up. And then same thing for the right. We can click the right border, and now the right border showed up. And if we click OK, select a different cell so we can see what we applied. Now we have some good separation between our data, and it looks very organized and easy to read. To get a better preview of this, we can come up to the File tab and click Print. And if you notice, the grid lines of the cells don't automatically print. There is an option to print the grid lines, which we will discuss later in the course. But looking at this print preview, you have a better visual idea what this report's going to look like if you print it out on a piece of paper or save it to a PDF file. And as of right now, I think it looks really good. And personally, when it comes to cell formatting, I think less is more, because if you apply too much formatting, it can get a little bit hard on the eyes. But as of right now, I think it's pretty simple to read. We can easily see what our column headings are, our row labels, and our totals. And then in the next video, we'll discuss actually applying some formatting to the numeric values within this report.